There are moments in life when you're on the floor, staring at the ceiling, wondering how the hell you got here. Moments when you can't even feel your own heartbeat, not because it stopped, but because you've gone numb. The call didn't come. The person you trusted walked away. The dream you gave everything to collapsed in your hands. And in that silence, you wonder if you'll ever be whole again. But I'm here to tell you something. Life is not breaking you to destroy you. It's breaking you to rebuild you. The version of you that will rise from this will be stronger, sharper, and more unstoppable than you can even imagine. And if you stay with me for the next few minutes, I'll show you exactly how to turn your breaking point into the moment that defines the rest of your life. Pain is the proof you're still alive. You might not like that sentence, but deep down you know it's true. See, if you were truly done, if your story was truly over, you wouldn't feel a damn thing. You wouldn't care. But you do. That ache in your chest, that lump in your throat, that fire in your stomach that's somewhere between rage and grief, that's not weakness. That's life still flowing through you. That's the proof there's still something left in you to fight for. Pain is the universe's way of telling you, I'm not done with you yet. I know in the moment it doesn't feel like that. When life hits you hard, when you lose someone, when you fail big, when your whole plan crumbles, it feels like a piece of you dies. And in some ways it does. The version of you that walked into that storm doesn't walk back out. That's the cost. But here's the gift. You get to decide who walks out instead. The problem is, most people don't make that decision. They stay in the pain. They wear it like a badge. They rehearse it like a script. Every day they wake up and play the same story in their head. I was betrayed. I was abandoned. I was cheated. I was broken. And the more they repeat it, the more it becomes their identity. You've met people like that. They've been carrying the same heartbreak for 10, 20, 30 years. The event is over, but they're still living there. And that's because they never learned what pain is for. Pain is not there to keep you in the same place. It's there to wake you up. It's the alarm clock of your soul screaming at you that something has to change. When you break your arm, the pain forces you to protect it, to fix it, to heal it. Emotional pain is no different. It's a signal that something in your beliefs, your habits, your environment, or your relationships has to shift. But here's the catch. If you ignore it, if you try to numb it, if you pretend it's not there, it doesn't go away. It buries itself deeper. And then it shows up in ways you don't even connect. Anger at the wrong people, fear in the wrong moments, self-sabotage right when things are about to get better. Some of you in this room right now are in pain and you're trying to hide it. You're busy pretending you're fine. You scroll, you binge watch, you drink, you overwork, you distract yourself until there's no quiet moment where the truth can catch up. But listen to me, what you don't face will own you. What you bury alive doesn't die. It grows roots. So if you're in pain right now, I'm telling you, don't run from it. Don't fight it with more denial. Sit with it, feel it, listen to it. Because buried inside that pain is the map to the next chapter of your life. That hurt is trying to teach you something about yourself. What you truly value, what boundaries you need, what strength you didn't know you had. When I look back at my own life, the moments of the most growth didn't come when everything was going great. They came when I was brought to my knees. They came when I was stripped of the illusion that I was in control of everything. In those moments, pain became my greatest teacher. It forced me to see who I really was when the mask came off, and it will do the same for you if you let it. You might say, but I didn't ask for this. I didn't deserve this. You're right, you didn't. Nobody deserves to have their heart shattered, to lose someone they love, to see a dream vanish overnight. But life doesn't check your resume before it throws you into the fire. The question isn't, why me? The question is, what am I going to do with this? You can either let pain make you bitter or let it make you better. And the difference between those two people isn't what happened to them. It's what they decided to believe about it. One person sees pain as punishment. and they shrink. The other sees pain as preparation and they rise. Which one will you be? I want you to understand something. Pain is temporary, but the strength you gain from it is permanent. The wound will heal, but the resilience, the empathy, the depth of character you build, that stays with you forever. And when life breaks you again, and it will, you'll have the foundation to stand taller, fight harder, and love deeper. Some of you have been praying for strength, asking for courage, begging for a breakthrough, and life answered by giving you a challenge that hurt like hell. That's how it works. You don't grow muscles without resistance. You don't grow courage without fear. You don't grow perseverance without trials. So the pain you're in now, it's the very thing you asked for. It's the training ground for the person you said you wanted to become. Think about it. Every hero you've ever admired, every leader you've ever respected, every human story that moved you to tears, it all came from someone who faced pain and refused to quit. They didn't avoid it. They didn't wish it away. They used it. And that's why we tell their stories. Your story isn't over. And this chapter, as hard as it is, might just be the one people will talk about years from now when they say, that was the moment everything changed for them. And it won't be because life was easy. It will be because you faced the hardest moment of your life and you refused to let it define you. So, if you're broken right now, I want you to hear me. Broken doesn't mean finished. Broken means you've been tested. Broken means you've been stretched. Broken means you've been chosen for a season of growth you might not understand yet. Pain is the proof you're still alive. And as long as you're still alive, you've still got a chance to fight, to heal, to rise. Your breaking point can become your turning point. I know that sounds almost too hopeful when you're in the middle of the storm, when the weight feels so heavy you can barely breathe. But I'm telling you, there is something powerful about the moment you think you can't take another step. That moment isn't just where people fall apart. It's where the decision is made about who they will become. You see, breaking points aren't comfortable, they aren't polite, and they don't ask for permission. They show up like an ambush in the middle of your life, flipping the table you've been building on. One phone call changes everything. One choice you didn't make, one betrayal you didn't see coming, one accident you couldn't prevent, and suddenly everything you thought was solid feels like quicksand. And in that moment, you feel powerless. But here's the truth no one tells you. Your breaking point is a crossroads. One path leads you deeper into despair, where you stop moving, where you decide that life is something happening to you and not for you. That's where you shrink, where you settle, where you stop trying. The other path, that's the one that leads to your turning point. That's where you decide that no matter what's been taken from you, no matter what's been shattered, you will build something new. And I'll tell you right now, it's not the easier path, it's the harder one. But it's also the one that will change everything. A turning point doesn't just happen because you want it. It happens because you choose it. You have to decide that this moment, this very breaking point, will not be the moment that defines you as a victim. It will be the moment you look back on and say, that's when I came alive again. Think about the people you admire most, the ones whose stories inspire you. They didn't become who they are because they avoided pain. They became who they are because they hit the bottom and decided to rise. They were broken, yes. They were scared, yes. But they made a decision in the middle of the chaos that said, I'm not staying here. And they fought. Not because it was easy. Not because they felt ready. They fought because they refused to let their story end in the valley. I've seen it again and again. A mother loses her child, and in her breaking, she builds a foundation to help other families heal. A man loses his business, everything he worked for, and in the ashes, he finds a way to build something even greater, not just for himself, but for hundreds of people. A young woman is betrayed by the person she trusted most, and that pain becomes the fuel that drives her to build a life so rich, so meaningful, that the betrayal is no longer her story. It's just the prologue. And that's what I want you to hear. Your breaking point is not the end. It is the birthplace of something new, but only if you decide to treat it that way. Here's what usually happens. When life breaks us, our instinct is to wait. We wait for the pain to go away before we take the next step. We wait for the fear to disappear before we make a decision. We wait for the perfect timing, the perfect feeling, the perfect sign. But the truth is, those things don't come first. The turning point doesn't show up while you're waiting. It shows up when you move. You have to take action in the pain, not after it. You have to step forward while your hands are still shaking, while your voice is still breaking, while your heart is still bleeding. That's how you turn the breaking into the breakthrough. And I know that's terrifying. You're afraid you'll fail again. You're afraid you'll get hurt again. You're afraid you don't have what it takes. And maybe you will fail again. Maybe you will get hurt again. Maybe you'll discover you aren't ready for the whole mountain yet, but you'll be one step closer. You'll have proof that you can move in the dark. You'll have proof that you can keep going even when everything in you wants to stop. One day you will look back on this season and realize that it was the exact moment your life shifted. But that only happens if you take that first step now, not next month, not when things calm down, not when you feel safe. Now, when you're at your breaking point, you have to remember you're not powerless. Yes, you can't change the past. Yes, you can't erase what happened, but you can decide how you're going to respond from here. You can decide to stand back up. You can decide to rebuild. You can decide that this pain will be the very thing that fuels you. And something happens when you make that decision. Your energy shifts. People around you feel it. Opportunities you couldn't see before start to appear. Doors that were closed begin to open, not because the world suddenly changed, but because you changed, because you stopped waiting for the storm to pass and started walking through it. Every major transformation in human history, every great story of comeback, every moment of triumph, it all started at a breaking point. That's the moment the person decided, I will not stay here. I will not let this break be the end. I will make this the beginning. So maybe right now you feel like you're at the end of yourself, like you have nothing left to give, like you can't take another hit. And maybe you're right. Maybe the old version of you is done. But that's exactly what's supposed to happen, because the old version of you was never built for where you're going next. The turning point is the moment the old you dies and the new you takes your place. And the beautiful thing is you don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to know exactly how it's going to work. You just have to decide that this breaking point will be your turning point. And once you do that, once you take that first step, life will meet you there. Your breaking point can become your turning point, but it will never happen by accident. It will only happen when you decide that this moment, this pain, this chaos, this darkness will be the very foundation you build the rest of your life on. Stop asking, why me? And start asking, what now? This is the shift that will change everything for you. Because why me keeps you stuck. Why me makes you dig deeper into the wound, replaying the scene over and over like it's going to give you a different ending, but it won't. Why me looks backwards, and you can't move forward while staring at the rearview mirror. The truth is, why me is the most natural question in the world when you're hurting. It's the first one that comes to mind when your world flips upside down. Why did they leave? Why did I lose this? Why did this have to happen to me? It's a question that feels like it should give you answers, but it doesn't. It doesn't heal you. It doesn't empower you. It chains you to the past. And the past is not where your breakthrough lies. The past is information. It's a teacher. It's a chapter. But it's not the place you're meant to build your future. The future starts when you change the question to, what now? That one shift moves your eyes from the wound to the possibility. It puts your hands back on the steering wheel. What now doesn't deny the pain. It doesn't pretend the loss didn't happen. It simply says, yes, this happened, and now I have to decide what I'm going to do about it. That's where power begins to return to you. Because as long as you're in why me mode, you're waiting for an answer that will never come. But when you step into what now, you stop waiting and start creating. I've watched people go through devastating losses, loss of a marriage, loss of a loved one, loss of a dream. And the difference between the ones who rebuild and the ones who stay stuck is not how much they hurt. It's how fast they shift the question. The ones who rebuild don't waste years trying to solve an equation that has no answer. They face the brutal truth. It happened. It's unfair. It hurts like hell. And now they choose their next step. Here's the problem. Some people think that asking what now means they're somehow dishonoring their pain, like moving forward is betraying what they lost. But moving forward doesn't mean forgetting. Moving forward means refusing to let the worst moment of your life decide every other moment you get to live. It means you honor the past by creating a future worth fighting for. I remember talking to a man who had built his entire career for 20 years, only to have it vanish overnight because of a decision someone else made. He told me, I just keep asking myself, why me? I did everything right. And I said to him, that's the problem. You're waiting for a world that isn't fair to give you a fair answer. You're waiting for a universe that doesn't take requests to give you a reason. What you need to ask is, what now? What are you going to do with the 20 years of experience you still have? What are you going to do with the network you built? What are you going to do with the lessons this pain has burned into you? That conversation changed him. He stopped playing the movie of what he lost and started creating the blueprint for what he could build next. And that's when doors started opening again. Not because the world magically got better, but because he stopped looking backward. You see, what now forces you into action. It makes you resourceful. It wakes you up. You stop waiting for the perfect plan and start moving with the tools you have right now. And movement, any movement, is what breaks the chains of hopelessness. But here's where a lot of people get stuck. They don't like the answers they get from what now, because sometimes the answer isn't glamorous. Sometimes what now means getting back up and doing the hard work no one sees. Sometimes it means swallowing your pride and asking for help. Sometimes it means starting over at the bottom when you thought you were at the top. That's why people would rather ask, why me? Because as painful as it is, it keeps you in the familiar. What now pushes you into the unknown? And the unknown is where growth lives. Think about it. Every major breakthrough you've ever had in your life came after you stepped into something uncertain. You didn't know exactly how it would work. You didn't have all the answers. But you took the step anyway. What now is the question that forces you into that step. So I want to challenge you right now. Whatever you're facing, whatever's been weighing on you, whatever's been breaking you, stop replaying the why me and start leaning into what now. If the relationship ended, what now? If the business failed, what now? If the diagnosis came, what now? If you've been knocked down again, what now? And don't wait for the perfect time to ask it. The perfect time doesn't exist. The right time to ask, what now? Is the moment you realize you've been stuck too long in the same loop questions that have no power to move you forward. When you ask, what now? You're telling the world, I may be hurt, but I'm not helpless. I may be broken, but I'm not finished. I may not know the whole path, but I know the next step, and I'm taking it. The people who change their lives are not the ones who never fall. They're the ones who decide that falling isn't the end. They get up, they ask, what now? And they move. Even if they move slowly, even if they move clumsily, even if they move in the dark, because forward is forward. And when you make this shift, something incredible happens. You start to see possibilities where you only saw problems. You start to see choices where you only saw chains. You start to see hope where you only saw endings. Because you're no longer a passive character in your own story. You are the author, writing the next chapter with intention. So, if life has broken you, if you're standing in the middle of the rubble wondering how you got here, I want you to stop asking, Why me? That's not your question anymore. The only question that matters now is, what now? And the moment you start living by that question, you begin to take back your power. You are not what happened to you. You are what you decide to become. I need you to really hear that, because if you miss this truth, you will spend the rest of your life wearing chains you were never meant to carry. Too many people define themselves by their worst day, their greatest loss, their deepest failure. They take one moment, one chapter, but make it their whole identity. What happy, it's not who you are. It's a page in who the story, not the title of the story, not the title of the book. Think about it. If every mistake, every heartbreak, every setback automatically became your identity, none of us would stand a chance. We've all been through storms. We've all made decisions we regret. We've all had moments where life blindsided us. But that's not the end of the story unless you decide it is. You can be broken and still choose to build. You can be scarred and still choose to shine. You can be knocked down and still choose to get up and write the next chapter differently. The danger is when you live through pain, it's easy to start believing the lie that the pain defines you. You go through a divorce and suddenly you're the divorced one. You lose a business and now you're the failure. You grow up in chaos and you decide you're the unwanted one. These are labels, not truths. And the more you repeat them, the more you live inside them. You start making choices that match the label instead of choices that match your potential. I've met people who have carried labels for decades that were never even theirs to own. Someone told them they were worthless when they were 12, and they're still living like it's true at 50. Someone betrayed them in their 20s, and they still walk around at 60 acting like every new person is going to do the same thing. This is the trap. When you let what happened to you decide how you see yourself, you hand over the keys to your life, to the very thing that hurt you. But you have a choice. Every single day you get to decide who you're going to be. Not based on your past, not based on what someone else did to you, but based on what you want to create now. That's the beauty of being human. We're not locked into one version of ourselves forever. We get to rewrite, we get to reinvent, we get to evolve. And yes, I know it's not easy. When you've been through pain, when you've been broken, when you've been humiliated or rejected or abandoned, the easy thing is to hide behind the story, to use it as a shield, to say, I am this way because of what happened. But here's the truth. That or story might explain you, but it doesn't have to define you. It might be the reason you are where you are today, but it doesn't have to be the reason you stay there tomorrow. Some of you right now are living as a prisoner of an old chapter. You're letting a past event dictate your present choices, and until you decide to break that pattern, nothing changes. But the moment you say, I'm not going to be defined by this anymore, everything starts to shift. The pain may still be there. The scars will still be there, but you're no longer building your life around them. I've seen people rise from situations that should have destroyed them. People who've gone through things so devastating that anyone would have understood if they gave up. But instead, they made a decision that said, this happened, but it's not the end of me. It's not the definition of me. It's just a part of my story. And that decision is what separated them from everyone who stayed stuck. You may not have chosen what happened to you. You may not have been able to stop it, but you do get to choose what happens next. And the second you start making choices from your vision instead of your history, you stop being a victim of circumstance and start being the architect of your life. And let me be clear, this isn't about pretending the past didn't happen. This isn't about denying the pain or the injustice or the loss. This is about refusing to give it power over the rest of your life. This is about looking at what happened and saying, yes, that's part of my story, but it's not going to be the whole story. I'm writing the rest of it. You are so much more than the worst thing that ever happened to you. You are more than the mistake you made. You are more than the person who left you. You are more than the dream that didn't work out. You are more than the season that broke you. And when you start living from that truth, the past loses its grip on you. The moment you realize that your identity is not locked to your history is the moment you start to feel free again. And when you're free, you can dream again. You can risk again. You can love again. Because you're no longer looking at yourself through the lens of what happened. You're looking at yourself through the lens of what's possible. And here's the most beautiful part. When you decide you are not what happened to you, you also become living proof for others. People around you will see your life and realize they don't have to be defined by their past either. Your courage gives them permission to imagine a new version of themselves. Your growth becomes the spark for their own. So don't you dare let your story end with what broke you. Don't you dare let one chapter speak for the entire book of your life. You are the author. You have the pen. And no matter what's happened up until now, you get to decide what you become next. You are not what happened to you. You are what you decide to become. Turn your wounds into weapons. That's not just a catchy phrase. It's a way of living that can take the ugliest, most painful parts of your story and turn them into your greatest source of strength. The wound you're ashamed of, the one you think ruined you, the one you've tried to hide. What if that's the very thing that's going to make you unstoppable? Most people look at their pain as something that only took from them. They think about what they lost, what was stolen, what they'll never get back. And yes, pain does take things from you. It takes comfort. It takes certainty. It takes pieces of who you thought you were. But if you choose it, pain can also give you something. It can give you grit. It can give you perspective. It can give you a strength that people who've never been through anything will never understand. See, the wound is inevitable. Life will hit you. You will get knocked down. You will bleed. But whether that wound becomes a scar that makes you stronger or an infection that poisons your future, that's up to you. The people who turn their wounds into weapons don't avoid the pain. They face it. They let it teach them. They let it change them in ways that sharpen them, not shatter them. They stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start asking, how can I use this? I've met people who have been through hell, abuse, betrayal, loss, addiction, and instead of letting it define them as broken, they forged it into a kind of armor. They took the lessons, the fight, the survival instincts, and they turned them into something that could not only protect them, but help others. That's what a weapon is. It's something you use with intention. Think about the word weapon. A weapon is built for impact. It's designed to be effective in a fight. And life, whether you want it to be or not, is a fight. Not every day, not every season, but there will be moments when you are in the ring, whether you feel ready or not. And in those moments, the wounds you've healed from become the very tools you need to win. That heartbreak you thought would kill you, it becomes the compassion that lets you love people more deeply and spot dishonesty from a mile away. That season of rejection, it becomes the confidence to know that your worth isn't defined by who accepts you. Did that time you failed miserably? It becomes the wisdom that keeps you from making the same mistake twice. But this transformation isn't automatic. You have to choose it. Because the truth is, the same wound that can become your weapon can also become your weakness if you let it. If you let bitterness take root, if you cling to the identity of the victim, if you keep rehearsing the pain without ever extracting the lesson, then the wound doesn't heal. It festers. And when it festers, it starts controlling you instead of empowering you. Turning your wounds into weapons requires you to look at what happened with brutal honesty, not sugarcoating it, not pretending it didn't hurt, not making excuses for the people who caused it. You acknowledge it for what it was, and then you ask, what is this teaching me? How can this make me stronger? And here's where it gets powerful. When you master that, Nothing can break you the same way twice. Because once you've turned a wound into a weapon, the next time life tries to hit you in that same spot, it doesn't find weakness. It finds steel. You've built something there. You've reinforced it. You've turned it into a part of you that is no longer vulnerable in the same way. It's like someone who's trained in the dark for years. They've been through battles no one saw, and now when the fight comes, they're ready. They don't panic. They don't fold. They don't beg for it to be over. They step into it with a strength that was built in the moments no one was watching. And let's be real, sometimes the greatest weapons you'll ever have aren't the ones you use for yourself, but the ones you use to protect and lift others. When you've been through pain, you can see it in someone else's eyes instantly. You know the signs, you know the silence, you know the weight they're carrying, and because you've turned your own pain into power, you're able to speak into their life in a way that lands. You're able to help them find their own strength because you've walked that road. This is why I say your greatest ministry often comes from your deepest misery. The thing you thought disqualified you may actually be the thing that qualifies you to make the greatest impact. Because people don't connect to your perfection. They connect to your scars. They connect to the truth that you've been where they are and you found a way through. But don't miss this. Turning your wounds into weapons is an active choice, not a passive one. It's not about just waiting for time to heal you. Time doesn't heal if you don't do the work. You have to process it. You have to extract the lessons. You have to use it intentionally. And that takes courage because it means revisiting something that hurt you. It means walking back into the fire long enough to pull out the gold. And when you do that, when you take the very thing that tried to destroy you and make it the thing that drives you, you become dangerous to anything that tries to break you again. You stop walking through life timid, waiting for the next hit, and you start moving with the confidence of someone who knows they've already survived worse. So here's the challenge. Look at your life right now. Look at the wounds you've been carrying, the ones you've been hiding, the ones you've been wishing would just disappear. Instead of trying to erase them, ask yourself, how can I use this? How can I turn this into strength? How can this pain serve a purpose? Because when you find the answer, you'll realize that what once made you feel powerless is now the very thing that makes you powerful. Turn your wounds into weapons, and nothing life throws at you will ever hit you the same way again. Build a life that's unbreakable, even in the storm. Because here's the truth. Storms aren't optional. Life will hit you again. Maybe not in the same way, maybe not from the same direction, but it will come. And if you're only strong when the skies are clear, you're not strong, not when you're lucky. Strength is proven in the storm, not in the sunshine. Doesn't mean you breakable life, doesn't mean you never feel pain. It doesn't mean you never get knocked down. It doesn't mean you never doubt yourself. It means that when those moments come, and they will, you have built something inside you that refuses to collapse. You may bend, but you won't break. So how do you build that? You build it long before the storm comes. You build it in the small daily choices when nobody's watching. You build it by training your mind to focus on what you can control, not on what you can't. You build it by creating habits that keep you grounded when the wind picks up. You build it by surrounding yourself with people who will lift you when you can't lift yourself. Most people wait until the storm is here to start building. That's like waiting until the hurricane is overhead to go buy plywood for your windows. By then, it's too late to prepare. You're in survival mode, and survival mode is not where you grow. It's where you just try to make it to tomorrow. If you want to live unbreakable, you've got to prepare in the seasons of peace for the seasons of war. It's like a fighter. The fight is won in the training camp, not in the ring. By the time the lights are on and the crowd is roaring, the outcome was already decided in the hours of discipline when no one was cheering. Life works the same way. Your resilience is built in the moments when you choose to do the hard thing, even when it's not urgent, even when no one is forcing you to, even when it would be easier to coast. And make no mistake, building an unbreakable life isn't just about strength. It's also about adaptability. The trees that survive the strongest winds are the ones that can bend without snapping. That's what resilience is. It's not rigid toughness. It's the ability to stay rooted in who you are while adjusting to what's coming at you. It's the ability to say, this is not what I planned, but I can work with it. You also have to know what your foundation is made of. If your foundation is built on other people's approval, it will crumble the moment they turn on you. If your foundation is built on circumstances being perfect, it will collapse the first time something goes wrong. An unbreakable life is built on principles you refuse to compromise, on values that guide your decisions, no matter the conditions. And let's be clear, this is not about becoming some cold, emotionless machine. The goal isn't to never feel anything. The goal is to feel it, process it, and keep moving anyway. You can cry and still be unbreakable. You can be afraid and still be unbreakable. You can question yourself and still be unbreakable. Because unbreakable doesn't mean you never shake. It means you never shatter. Part of building this kind of life is removing what weakens you. If you know something is toxic, whether it's a relationship, a habit, a thought pattern, you cut it out before it takes root. If you know you're filling your mind with things that make you weaker, you change your input. The strongest people I know don't just train their bodies or their skills. They train their environments. They're intentional about what they allow into their life because they know that what you feed will grow and what you starve will die. Another piece is making struggle your ally instead of your enemy. Too many people try to avoid discomfort at all costs, but avoiding discomfort is exactly what makes you fragile. Every time you choose the hard road on purpose, every time you challenge yourself, every time you step into something that scares you, you're reinforcing the part of you that knows how to handle pressure. And when the storm comes, that part of you will be ready. And then there's this: building an unbreakable life requires vision. If you don't know where you're going, every storm will feel like it's blowing you off course. But when you know your destination, you can navigate through the chaos. You might get knocked sideways. You might have to take the long route, but you keep moving toward what matters. The vision pulls you through when the feelings aren't enough. You also need to anchor yourself in gratitude, not the fake, just be positive kind of gratitude, but the deep, unshakable awareness that no matter how bad it gets, there is still something worth fighting for. Gratitude is the anchor that keeps you from being swept completely away. It reminds you of what's still in your hands instead of only focusing on what's been taken. And here's the thing, you don't build an unbreakable life once and then you're done. It's a continual process. You keep showing up, you keep training, you keep refining, you keep removing what weakens you and adding what strengthens you. Every challenge becomes a test, and every test you pass makes you even harder to break next time. And why does this matter so much? Because when you live unbreakable, you're not just protecting yourself, you're creating stability for the people around you. Your kids, your partner, your friends. They draw strength from your example. You become a lighthouse in their storm, and that's a responsibility worth carrying. Life will break around you. It will throw things at you that you didn't see coming. It will test you in ways you never imagined. But if you've built a life that's rooted, disciplined, adaptable, and anchored in purpose, you'll stand in the middle of the storm and know this. The winds can roar. The waves can crash, but they will not take you down because you've built a life that's unbreakable.